So welcome to my kitchen. This is Cooking Today. Hi, welcome to Cooking Today. Glad that you're here. 'Tis the season, isn't it so great? I just love it. It is the holiday season, and so naturally when I was doing my recipe planning, I cannot have one more cooking show this holiday season without showing you how to make Mama Grace's chocolate pie. Mama Grace is my husband's, or was my husband's, grandmother, and she was a matriarch. She was strong and she was smart. She was a tough cookie, and everybody loved her for it. She was a good lady and helped raise Sam and his brothers, and was just so good and silly, and had a good ornery laugh that we all really loved. And one of the things that we absolutely loved about Mama Grace is that she was really a great cook. She's the one who taught me how to make gravy. So if you've made my biscuits and gravy, you have Mama Grace to thank for that, because she's the one who taught me how to make gravy one time. Anyway, so her chocolate pie is one that we absolutely loved, that she made for us for years for the holidays before she died. And we cannot have a Hannon family get-together without Mama Grace's chocolate pie. So, before I tell you any more about it, let's start on our crust, because this is really important. You can absolutely take a shortcut like I am taking today and using a store-bought refrigerated pie crust. She would have never, let's be clear, she would have never. But I also do a lot of the cooking, do lots and lots of the cooking. My sisters-in-law and I do tons of the cooking. And so if there's a decent shortcut that I can take, then I might take it, and this is one of those. So I'm using a store-bought pie crust that I allowed, just to set at room temperature for just enough time to unroll it and then put it in. I've taught you how to make a homemade pie crust. So yes, I know how to do it, but today I'm using a refrigerated. So if you want to do the whole thing and get, a refrigerator full of your good homemade pie crusts ready a couple of days before the holidays, then go ahead and stock up on those. They're really good. But again, easy. Ready? So I've put it in my pie plate, pressed it on the bottom, pressed it with my fingers to the side, and pressed it where it meets, where there's the little elbow, like where the top meets the bottom. Really pressed it down in there. And then I have docked it, which is taking your fork and going all around, lots and lots and lots of places. And all of these little tips help keep your pie crust from shrinking. And I asked for a couple of viewer questions on my Instagram, and one of them was, how do I keep my pie crust from shrinking? I do everything I can think of, because it's awful when you put your crust in the oven and it, shrinks down. So I use every trick. I dock, I press this in, and then I weight it with pie weights. And all I'm doing is taking a piece of parchment paper, and I wad it into a ball and then loosen it, because that helps it just kind of be a little bit more pliable and kind of fill the hole, fill the hole inside. And then I am just going to take my pie weights. Now I have ceramic pie weights. You can buy them at kitchen stores, you can get them on Amazon, Walmart, wherever, whatever you want to do. And I just put them in the very bottom, and I make sure they're in a nice even layer. You can also do this with dried beans or rice, anything that gives you some weight down in the bottom. And then you also could stick your pie crust, if you wanted to, in the refrigerator or freezer to get it nice and cold before you put it in the oven. That also kind of helps. But I kind of feel like pressing really well, docking, and waiting generally does the trick for me. So we'll see. Cross your fingers that we don't have shrinking pie crust on our TV show. So we're going to stick this in the oven. It's 450 degrees for about 10 minutes. Ooh, 450 degrees is hot. Hot, hot, hot. So I'm going to set my timer. Okay? Then we're going to take the corners of the parchment up and out and put them, somewhere to let them cool. And then we're going to put the pie crust back in the oven for just a couple of minutes, like 3 or 4 minutes maybe, because where the pie weights have sat, like on the bottom crust, it kind of hasn't quite cooked. It's still a little bit kind of wet looking, kind of doughy. So we're going to take those pie weights out and then let them, kind of let the bottom kind of dry out a little bit more. Okie doke. Now, one of the things that makes Mama Grace's pie special is that she always used real chocolate, and she absolutely believed in it, and she would tell you that chocolate pie made with cocoa was not real chocolate pie. She believed it, and she really, she had a passion about it. So what we're doing is we've got some unsweet chocolate and some bittersweet chocolate, kind of semi-sweet, and we're just going to chop it. You can get the full recipe on our Facebook page or on our website, but we're just going to chop this chocolate. We're letting our pie crust dry out. We have our pet milk and our eggs and everything else is kind of ready to go. So when we come back, what we're going to do is put together all of our filling, and we're going to start stirring, and then we're going to stir almost the rest of this show because it's the key. This is Cooking Today.
Cooking Today, sponsored by West Rock Coffee Company.
Hi, welcome back to Cooking Today. Today I'm making Mama Grace's chocolate pie because you can't have a holiday season without it. Sweet Mama Grace isn't with us anymore. She went to be with Jesus. She lived for almost 100 years. I mean, my goodness sake, she was quite a gal. And thankfully, she handed down this recipe to me to make at the holidays when she was not able to make it anymore. So a little nugget for y'all, little encouragement is hand down your recipes. Write them in your handwriting right now, because I'll tell you, once she was about 94, and I said, Mama Grace, we've got to have your chocolate pie recipe. She said, honey, I can't remember how to make it. I haven't written anything in forever. She was afraid she couldn't even write it. So don't wait till you're 94 to write down your very favorite family recipes. Do it soon and hand them down early. And then you know what would even be awesome is to stand around and help teach in person how to make your recipes to your people. Wouldn't that be special? Like I said, Mama Grace taught me how to make gravy, and I always remember standing there with her, which was entirely more special than her having just written it. But we did get our hands on her chocolate pie recipe, and this is it. So we have blind baked our crust, okay? And we did pretty good on the shrinking dough. One side looks a little bit sad and weak, but it's all right, it'll still eat. Everything else is good. We went ahead and blind baked it for about 10 minutes and then took out the pie weights and then baked it another 3 or 4 minutes or so. So we're gonna let that hang out and cool. Now, what we have is a saucepan, pretty good sized, and what we're gonna do is add in our cup of sugar, our flour, and then this is Mama Grace's recipe, remember? She believed in pet milk, which is kind of evaporated milk. So, I think it's like a 14-ounce can, not the little baby one, but like, regular can. Pour that in a measuring cup and then add enough whole milk to it to get 3 cups. So that's what she always told me. So she didn't say do this much pet milk and do this much milk. She said add whole milk to get to 3 cups. So that's what we've got right here. And then I went ahead and chopped my chocolate. We have unsweetened chocolate all together. And then we also have some semisweet as well. So it's not a milk chocolate pie, and it's not a dark chocolate pie. It's kind of right there in the middle. So I have just combined these on the, right here on the counter for now, just to be sure that we don't have any clumps. Feels nice and combined. And then I'm going to dump my chocolate in right here. Okay? And now, part of the important part of making a chocolate pie, or any like pie, pudding or cream-filled pie, is your heat on your stove and you're stirring, and you really do have to kind of watch it and whisk a lot. So I've got this over here, and I'm going to get it on about a medium heat, and I'm going to let the milk get hot. And then it's going to start to melt the chocolate, and at the same time that the temperature is coming up on it, flour is a thickener. So the flour is going to thicken, and we're going to start getting our good pudding, pudding cream filling. So I need to be checking that from time to time. But in the meantime, while we're kind of getting our temp up, I'm going to go ahead and do our eggs. So you want to separate your eggs, yolks from whites, and here's why. Yolks are going in the pie. The whites we're going to use for meringue. Now we'll talk about that. Meringue is an art form. It's beautiful, it's kind of like marshmallowy and billowy, and it's beautiful, but not everybody's big on meringue. So you do not have to make this chocolate pie with meringue. You can absolutely just make your pudding pie. I didn't do that one very well. Wish me luck. Now I'm just digging in here in this egg. Hang on. Oh, brother. Y'all look away while I try to be professional. Okay, wait, no, here we go. So you could do meringue if you wanted to do the meringue. We're kind of a house divided on it. Some people like it and some people don't. I will say this, once Mama Grace got a little older, she really started coming up with all kinds of excuses on why she wasn't going to make these pies anymore. And remember I said she lived to be pretty old. Nice long life. She used to say, honey, meringue doesn't travel, because she'd show up without pies. And I mean, I told you my husband and his brothers would really razz her sometimes. I'm going to check this real quick. Would razz her sometimes. She would walk in without chocolate pies, and they would give her the hardest time. And she'd say, honey, meringue doesn't travel. So then, she'd start making them without the meringue, and we would just do whipped cream, which is just fine. I'm going to give you the recipe for how to do the meringue, but we're probably going to put whipped cream on them just to show you how simple this is. Okay, I'm going to stir our filling until it starts to get melted and nice and thick. We come back, we're going to temper our eggs. So this is cooking today.
Iced tea, sponsored by Lipton.
Hi, welcome back to Cooking Today. We're making Mama Grace's chocolate pies because it's the holiday season, and this is what we eat at our house. So I thought I would share it with you just to show you that it's really doable to make a homemade pie. You can make a homemade crust if you would like. Today, for just a quick version, we used a refrigerated pie crust. There are also like frozen pie crusts that come in like throwaway pans that are already crimped and stuff. I think you can get those and bake them as well. Whatever, if it's easy on you, do that, because the filling is so good, you probably wouldn't even miss it. Anyway, all right. So we have our eggs separated. I've got my whites here. You only need 4 egg yolks in your pie, but you need 5 whites for your meringue, so that's important. So when you get going and you're separating, on your last one, you need the whites, but you can toss the yolk, okay? So that's important. 4 yolks, 5 whites. I was tempted to make a really corny egg yolk, like a yolk. Like, you're yolking me. But then I decided maybe I shouldn't. But then I did it anyway. Okay. We have our thickened mixture, y'all. That happened over the break. So let me tell you, it got really nice and thick. We put that chopped chocolate down inside with our flour and our sugar and our milks, and then just over medium heat. It took a little bit of time, but the chocolate melted, the heat kind of thickened it, and I've cooked and stirred it over medium heat for, 3, 4, 5 minutes until it starts to feel like pudding. It needs to be thick enough. I mean, you've had chocolate pie. You know what it should feel like. It should, be thick pudding. So I've whisked well and made sure that we don't have any big clumps. And another thing that's really important that I kind of learned, this is just a little tip, is I have a whisk with a pointed end on it, because that'll get, instead of like a big round like balloon whisk, of course I don't have any out here, like this one in my dishwasher. See the difference? This one's kind of pointy. Because it gets real thick kind of around the outsides and down like on this side, and you want to be able to kind of get your whisk in there and really dig it out. So you want to be sure to stir all of it Does that make sense? All of it, and not leave any, kind of hanging down there in the corners. So this whisk can really get in the corners. Okay, this next step is when we need to temper the eggs. And what that means, we need to put eggs in because it's going to smooth it out, it's going to add some richness, and it's going to help thicken our filling. If we were to pour, see the steam coming off? We were to pour these 4 egg yolks directly in here, they're going to scramble and curd up right away. So I'll just use my fork. What we want to do, I've got a 1/4 cup measure and a fork in my eggs. You want to take a little bit of filling at a time and then slowly add it to the eggs. And what we're doing is bringing the temperature of the eggs up and kind of incorporating it so that they're not completely shocked and they turn into curds. Does that make sense? We don't want to bite into our chocolate pie that's so rich and yummy and get a hunky piece of yucky old egg. We want the eggs to be nice and smoothed out and delicious. So I'm going to do, 1/4 cup plus a little more, maybe close to a 1/2 cup. And we're just whisking, whisking, whisking. I'm doing it with my fork. Just to kind of get them adjusted. We're just kind of, slowly incorporating them into this temperature and getting them nice and mixed in. I don't want to miss any of that. Hang on, I got to get all the goods off there. Okay. Now we have our tempered eggs, and we can pour them right back into our filling. Isn't that easy? And we're going to return this to the heat. I'm going to whisk it in right here. We're going to return this to our heat over medium, and we're going to cook and stir it for, another 2 minutes or so. Get my heat back up and get my whisk in there, getting it all the way down into the corners. You really want to be able to get to it. Okay, so we're whisking, whisking, whisking. And it's going to get thick. This is where you can really start to feel that you're having to give it a little bit more elbow grease to kind of start, stir it, because we have our crust sitting right here. I'm going to set it over here. We have our crust ready and waiting for us to put this mixture in. What I kind of watch for at this point is I kind of let it sit a little, like be still for just a minute, and I kind of watch it, for just those littlest, thickest bubbles, just to kind of pop up and breathe, and then stir, 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 and then let it sit a minute, and then watch it bubble up and breathe and bubble up and breathe. And we want to do that because we're just kind of getting nice and thick and good. Yep, we're doing it. All I'm going to do is pour it in here and chill it. When we come back, we're going to add our last 2 ingredients, and then we'll pour it in. It's delicious. I can't wait for y'all to try this one. This is Cooking Today.
Rice, sponsored by Mars.
Hi, welcome back. Standing over here stirring. We are finishing our chocolate pie filling. It has gotten really nice and thick with a really good drag in it. Like if you can kind of drag your whisk down the middle and it kind of holds, that's when I feel like it's a good tester for when you know that it's done. If it pools back down on top of itself too quickly, then it's probably still a little bit thin. So all we have to do at the very end, after we've gotten it nice and thick, is we whisk in a tablespoon of butter and a splash of vanilla for a little bit more richness, more flavor, and that butter just makes it so glossy and smooth. And I've got my good bowl, like my scraper in here, so I can get down into the corners and get it incorporated and yummy. There it is, that smell, it's the vanilla. It's my favorite part of all desserts is when we put the vanilla in. So we're stirring in the butter. We're going to pour it into our pie shell. If you were to top it with meringue, you would make your meringue, put it right in the oven. I'll include the directions for that. If you were going to just do whipped cream, you would need to cool it completely and then make your whipped cream and top it. This, to me, is Thanksgiving dessert. This is what we've always had. And I am so tickled to be able to carry on the tradition for our family. This is Mama Grace's chocolate pie. Try it at home. This is cooking today.
Cooking Today, sponsored by West Rock Coffee Company. Kitchenware is provided by Una Mays. Iced tea, sponsored by Lipton. Rice, sponsored by Mars.